A sure thing. Can't miss. Oh, he's pro ready. It's a no-brainer. We've heard it all before. Every team has its story. Every scout, his humiliating moment. But for each embarrassment, there's a story of redemption. A diamond in the rough. A long shot that fights his way to the top of the heap. Late round draft choices and undrafted free agents have become NFL icons. Hell, Kurt Warner was bagging groceries before his days as frontman of the greatest show on turf. There's a fine line between hero and home. And sometimes, it's no more than a single event, just a subtle twist of fate that makes the unthinkable spectacular. This is one of those tales. A true story that changed the face of a franchise and the direction of two lives. Since 1960, 11 men have served as President of the United States. In that same time, the Dallas Cowboys have seen 36 starting quarterbacks. America's legislative system is a little more forgiving than America's team. While job security in the White House isn't necessarily based on approval ratings, the instant accountability factor is very real in Jerry's house. If you're not performing up to par in Dallas, there's an eager replacement just a few yards away. The men that have held the highest office for the Cowboys have become household names, legends in the world of sports, and rock stars for life. There is no other position that offers similar rewards or more brutal scrutiny. It is not a job for the faint of heart. While Y2K was no more than an empty threat for most of the country, the Cowboys were dealing with a true tragedy. Future Hall of Fame quarterback Troy Aikman was nearing the end of his career and taking with him the arm that accounted for 3 world championships.
We've not done a good job of preparing for a backup quarterback. We never gave it a lot of thought. We were probably guilty thinking Aikman would play forever.
Nestled in the shadows of downtown Atlanta, LaVanya Quintel Carter was born October 13, 1977. Like most urban-bred kids, Quincy's inner-city experience was a mix of cold steel and hard knocks.
At first, to be honest with you, I was a little intimidated by everybody because it wasn't no age group. Everybody, if you was 5, 6 years old, you played with anybody who was 15, 16, 17 years old, so it wasn't no age group. But I was intimidated. But what it made me do, actually, is compete, you know what I mean? And when you got everybody knocking on you and beating you up as a little kid or whatever, you know what I mean? You're going to either get back up or you're going to cry, take your ball home and go home. So, you know, I was the one who just stayed in the fight, man, and just kept competing. My first year playing football, I actually played center. And then, like, I want to say when I was 10 or 11, I started playing tight end and defensive end. And was kind of a little bit more, got a little bit more skilled or whatever. And I actually didn't start really playing quarterback until I got better pitching in baseball. And once I started getting better pitching in baseball, then I started throwing the football around 11 or 12. And then once my coaches seen me throwing a little bit, hey, I said, wait a minute, we might have us something here.
While Quincy was forging his path in Atlanta, 1,000 miles and a world away, in tiny Burlington, Wisconsin, Antonio Ramiro Romo was busy plotting his own way through the world of youth sports. But in Burlington, his options were limited.
Growing up, it was definitely basketball. I just loved it. And so it was easy, but I played every day. In some fashion, by myself, I'd play a game, blah, 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 against somebody else, and it would be me versus me, but it was just, I would be like, oh, he's on me tight, and you shoot it, and then you have to make it, or not that guy gets the point or doesn't. And then I enjoyed those things growing up. And then with football, it was different because you almost needed somebody else to go play. You definitely obviously needed for like a 7-on-7 or 11, but even just one, you couldn't just be by yourself and get better. So you needed help catching, and so unless you bought 30 footballs, which I would get into later once I experienced that I could afford that many, but that attitude and approach happened, I can remember pretty easily. At the same time, though, it was competition and competing and just loving playing mostly more than anything, and that just really, it's held true to this day in that sense, that I just enjoy competition day in and day out.
In December of 1995, during a Wisconsin blizzard, Romo's love of competition stood directly in the path of his better judgment. The same drive that gave Tony his edge in sports prompted a decision that could have proven disastrous.
I think it was sophomore year, actually, in high school, and you're playing, but you're not established per se as a senior at the time. And I remember my dad was late because it was just a bad snowstorm, and he didn't have a cell phone to text me at the time, and he's on the road, and he has no way to call me. And so after a while, it started to get, the bus is going to take off, and usually I get there a half hour early, and now it's a half hour before, and it's 20 minutes before, and 15, 10, and it's downtown. And so I grab my bike and just take off. It's probably not the smartest thing just because there was a snowstorm going on at the time, but I didn't get there in time. Bus had left a couple minutes before. My dad ended up picking me up right before I got there and took me to the game. Coach was nice enough to let me play, even though our rules weren't that you can make it, but I guess those were okay.
And you played well?
I did okay.
And by I did okay, Tony means he survived the night and led his team to a double overtime win. By his junior year at Southwest DeKalb High School, Quincy Carter had worked his way to starting quarterback. And in December of 1995, led the Panthers to the state championship.
That's one of my best memories ever in my life, to be honest with you. That time, winning the state championship, being from Decatur, Georgia, all-black, neighborhood, actually the first all-black school to win a state championship at the highest level in the state of Georgia. But those are some real good times, played with some great athletes. Actually played with 2 Olympians, Angelo Taylor and Terrence Trammell was actually my receivers in high school. So my high school winning the state championship was big for me. It still is big to this day in Decatur, Georgia.
A highly touted 2-sport athlete, Quincy signed a letter of intent to play football at Georgia Tech. That same year, he was drafted by the Chicago Cubs in the 2nd round of the MLB draft. Despite back-to-back All-State honors in football, Quincy decided to take his shot at the majors.
When I did actually sign that contract with the Cubs, I thought I really, really wanted to go play baseball and be the center fielder for the Chicago Cubs, being, born in Chicago or whatever. But I want to say in between, my first full baseball season up in Rockford, Illinois, and dealing with that cold, and it was like 30, 40 degrees in May at night. I said, wait a minute, and I'm sitting up looking at and they put your stats on the scoreboard every time you go to bat, and every time I go to bat it's 130, 140, 150. That off season right there, that in 1998, that's when I started calling coaches, calling schools around and saying maybe, hey, maybe I should get this football thing and try again.
As Quincy Carter's baseball career was grinding to an abrupt halt, Romo was making the most of his high school years. As a junior, Romo was starting at point guard and quarterback at Burlington High. Not considered a D1 talent, Tony was drawing some interest from smaller schools.
I didn't think about college football until halfway through senior year, probably. I still thought I was going to play basketball all the way up until probably December or January of my senior year, and then I started to see that the colleges a little bit were about the same, and about the people recruiting me at the same level. And that was when I was like, well, maybe. Then I had to kind of just have a long talk to my dad and just think about it, and then from there you just have a vision of what you could do and what can you be better at, I guess you could say. And that probably made the decision a little bit. I was very raw in football at a young age, and it was just, running around, making plays that didn't have any refinement to my game, and I think I needed to do that, and that gave me a chance to get better.
Romo decided on football and Eastern Illinois University. While it wasn't big time, it was a place where Tony could refine his talents. Most of his work was accomplished in games and on the practice field. But for Romo, that was more of a guideline than a rule.
I remember coming home from a football game in college, and this story's probably been told, but it was just, we had lost and I didn't throw the ball, and I had to get the feeling that I could figure something out and be better the next day or for the next week. And so when we stopped to get a bathroom break on our 7-hour trip in college, I grabbed the ball and got through in the parking lot, and we had 20 minutes, and the coaches they tell a story this day, and to me it was pretty normal. I just felt uncomfortable with the performance and what it was, and I had to get that taste out of my mouth and feel good about going forward. And it's the great thing about sports. There's hope. There's tomorrow, and you can literally improve and get better today, and it really will help you for the next time you play. So you can find the silver lining in that.
Tony's unquenchable desire to improve extended beyond roadside parking lots and the walls of Eastern Illinois. His obsession with the game of football had lasting effects on everyone around him.
My dad literally would catch with me every day, during those times where I'd be home, and I'm December, January, for college, and he would get home from work at 5:30. We'd have 20 minutes, 30 minutes of light kind of thing, and he'd get out, and then it'd be dark, and there'd be a light out in the street, and he'd have to catch these, and I'm trying to throw them hard, and it's 0 degrees out, and his fingers are all mangled now to this day. I apologize to him for that, but I was like, hopefully it was worth it.